Good morning, my people. Good morning. What is going on, everybody? Thank you very much for being here. Long time no see. What has it been? 8-9 hours since the last time we saw each other. Thank you for being a part of the show. The Sliwa Show, Monday through Friday, right here on YouTube, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Thank you for hanging out. We got a busy show today. All right, let me just say that. We got a busy show. If you got comments, thoughts, things like that, you got to hold up for a quick second. No, we're going to have a fun show today. Certainly a lot of great stuff to talk about. I know around Lakers basketball, but there's other stuff going on as well in sports. So I'll do my best to try to get into it. But thank you all for being here. Grab your cup of Joe. You know, sometimes it takes me a little second to get the show started and my intro and all that stuff. When I got a pack-filled day like today, I feel like I just got to get started on it right away. All right, quick quote here. Your actions prove your greatness. Your actions prove your greatness. That is the quote of the day. Your actions prove your greatness. As you guys can see on this side right here, we're, of course, going to talk about the Lakers trade yesterday. Dorian Finney-Smith coming to the Los Angeles Lakers. That's the big move that went down. What's next for Rob Pelinka? Looking forward to have that conversation. My brother, Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation, he's in the queue right now. He's ready. Trevor Lane is ready to go right now, so he's going to come join us in 2 seconds. Rams win the NFC West. Dodgers re-sign Teoscar Hernandez, and then weekend recap. So we got a lot of stuff that we're going to get into. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. If you guys don't mind, just take a quick second, subscribe to the channel. As you guys know, I'm now 100% here on YouTube and enjoying it, loving every second. But as I look to grow this channel, I could certainly use your guys' help by just subscribing to the channel. With all that said, let's get the show started. Mr. Trevor Lane himself. What's going on, Trevor?
Alan, you know what? I have to start things off just apologizing for last week, the mix-up there. But sorry for not making it last week, but really glad that I get to be here today to talk about a trade. The Lakers made a trade, Alan. This hasn't happened in 2 years where they made a trade involving players like this. So I'm excited to come on here and talk to you about it.
Well, we know the definition of some people play checkers, other people play chess. I feel like on Friday, you're like, listen now, something's going to go down on Sunday. So I'm not going to join you on Friday. So then we could react to it together on Monday. So you were playing chess on Friday. I was playing, or no, yeah, you were playing chess. I was playing checkers. I'm going to just assume that's what it was. My brother, I know you're a very busy man and you're making stuff happen, but always love having you on the show. What's going on? All right. What do you do in the morning? Do you do coffee?
I do energy drinks. That's my thing. And it's usually not the Monster. It's usually I like the Zoas. But yeah, I'm not a coffee guy. So for me, it's always the energy drinks that I turn to.
Okay, hypothetically, if Monster was coming in for a sponsorship, we'll edit that out. You know, he's ready to go for Monster. He's ready to go. He'll do that. So energy drinks in the morning. You know what's funny? I can't, for some reason, I've just, maybe since my days of like an idiot, I would do like Red Bulls and vodka if I was going to go out for a bar or something like that. I don't know if everybody's still doing that, but I don't think I've had energy drinks since then. I'm like addicted to coffee now.
Those keep you up so late. Like when you're out at the bar and you're drinking that Red Bull vodka, like you get hammered, there's no question. But then you can't go to. It's hard to sleep it off after that because you've had so many of those. I just
combination. That combination. It seems like who would have thought vodka and red? That's good for the heart. Yeah, let's get that thing pumping at 11 o'clock at night.
When I was in my 20s, it was a great thing. There's no question. There was a wonderful innovation when I was in my 20s. Now I'm like, but I kind of want to sleep at some point. Whereas back then it would be like, sleep. Who needs sleep? I can just keep going. No problem.
Well, it was, it's kind of funny. So as we sit here, and obviously we're going to spend a lot of time talking Lakers basketball. If you guys got some questions or comments or anything like that, throw them in. I'll try to get to them as the show goes on. But Trev, it's funny. You know, I texted you yesterday, and it was kind of like, so what do you think? I don't really feel, and maybe you can do this or find an angle for it. Do you feel like there are many people that are saying, hey, that trade doesn't make sense for the Lakers? Why would they trade D'Angelo Russell? For me, at least my personal opinion, and then everything else that I've read, a lot of the momentum is a positive towards the Lakers. Can you, if you wanted to analyze this the other way, Is there an angle that you can look at and say, hey, I'm not sure that this was the right trade? Or does everything just point towards the direction of, yeah, the Lakers, that they made the right move here?
Yeah, I think there's certainly some consequences of doing the move, some negative things that come with this. And I talked about this a little bit on the Lakers Nation podcast that went out this morning. But there's essentially you're looking at now the Lakers don't have D'Angelo Russell's salary to use in a trade, so there's an opportunity cost here. That would have been the main piece going out in pretty much any trade the Lakers were going to make. So depending on how the market reacts, because so far the market has been very driven towards expiring contracts. And the Lakers simply don't have really any more of those. You've got Jalen Hood-Schifino as an expiring $4 million. What's that going to get you? Probably not a lot. So that's now the challenge for the Lakers. You used your biggest, in terms of salary matching, trade chip in this deal, which means that you're not going to be able to make a bigger move. And I do think that this is a fairly substantial move. This is not a home run move for the Lakers, where, okay, now they're set. They've got everything that they need. So the opportunity cost is now you don't have D'Angelo Russell's contract to use in another trade. That's part of the downside. And the other piece to it is now you're probably short a ball handler. Now, maybe Shake Milton can do a few things in there for you, but he's not. I mean, D'Angelo Russell was the purest point guard on the roster. And now you've got a lot on the shoulders of Austin Reeves to really hold down that position, as well as Gabe Vincent, which then leads to another conversation about, well, can you trade Gabe Vincent now, who would be another contract of the right size to go make another move? So that's kind of the downside to doing this kind of a deal. Overall, I think this is a major positive. It's just, like you said, it's important that we recognize there's always going to be some negative with doing a trade like this.
Your interaction, you probably interact more with Laker fans than anybody out there. D'Angelo Russell, it seemed like for the last, he gets traded to the Lakers, and they, from the trade deadline on, Lakers make a little bit of a run, but his name was always in the trade rumors. And listen, I'm guilty of this as well. I mean, every time I talked about D'Angelo Russell is more seeing, well, what can they get out of him in the trade market? What's his value in the trade market? Is the expiring contract really what people want? It wasn't about, hey, D'Lo is a player for the Lakers for the next 3-4 years. What's as D'Lo moves on, what do you walk away with D'Angelo Russell, his time with the Lakers, his kind of perception around the league? What's your take on D'Lo?
I liked D'Angelo Russell. I thought he was one of the most fun players in the league when he goes on a heater. When he really gets it going. And we saw a lot of it last season. I thought last season he was the third best Laker, put up 18 and 6, great percentages. We saw what he can be. But unfortunately, I think his presence was also a limiting factor when we look at the Lakers and where they can really get to, particularly on the defensive end of the floor, with the biggest issue simply being that D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves, the bottom line, they had too many weakness overlaps, and that was creating issues. So this was something that had to happen. It wasn't, a lot of people would say, oh, why do you want to trade D'Lo? No, it's not necessarily that I want to see the guy leave. What I'd like to see is everything work out great in LA. It was a cool comeback story that he was back with the team that drafted him. I wanted to see everything really click, but it just didn't. It just didn't. And the playoff performances were certainly disappointing that we saw from D'Angelo Russell. It's not like he played poorly his entire Lakers tenure, because he certainly did not. And frankly, they don't win the games that they won last season without D'Angelo Russell and his play. They will miss him. But last season, contractually, it was pretty clear that they had to put him on the trade market. And again, that was regardless of what the play on the floor said, contractually, he had to be in trade talks. The Lakers would have been insane not to, given the way his contract was. And then this year, as an expiring deal, again, he had to be in all these trade conversations. So we knew it was a matter of time, and it was the right thing for the Lakers to get to their ceiling. But I will miss D'Angelo Russell. Really enjoyed when D'Lo had it going. Again, there's few players in the NBA that are more fun to watch.
Do you think most, because I think your opinion is, how do I put this? I feel like that thought of you enjoy D'Angelo Russell, that was more of the minority. Would you agree? Would you agree that from a Laker perspective, or in your interaction is a little bit different? But I feel like, and it's tough for me to not exclude my own opinion in this, but I had mentioned this before. If D'Angelo Russell gets traded, I'm probably not going to lose sleep over it. Let me be honest with you. Last night, I was fine. I slept really well. Woke up this morning and I was good to go do the podcast. With that in mind, Trev, do you think a lot of Laker fans felt more how you felt, or do you think more Laker fans were ready to say, "Hey, let's move on from him"?
I think it's more the latter. More Lakers fans were ready to move on, especially if it was the last 2 summers coming off of weak playoff performance. I mean, a disastrous playoff performance 2 summers ago. It was after that, it was months of people just get D'Lo off this team. He's not going to do anything for us, and all that kind of stuff. And then this past summer too, it was a lot more of the same. That he simply isn't the guy that they need. I appreciate his game while just recognizing that the fit simply wasn't right here. But you're right. Yeah, it's not. Look, I think we've had so much time of him being in trade rumors that we all
like
knew
he already got traded.
Yeah, it was going to happen eventually. And so that, I think, lessens any kind of, attachment or whatever to the player. I think we all recognize, even if you liked D'Angelo Russell, there was recognition that something had to give here, and it was always going to be D'Angelo Russell. They weren't going to move, of the two that weren't really fitting together, Austin and D'Lo. They weren't going to move Austin on the contract that he's got. They were always going to be looking to move D'Lo on his contract.
All right, final one on D'Lo, and then we'll start moving on and looking at what the Lakers got in return. What is D'Angelo Russell in the NBA moving forward? What do you think his offseason is going to look like? What do you think? I'm just, he spent, obviously, with his first stint getting drafted by the Lakers and then his last stint with the Lakers. Obviously, he spent some time in LA. What kind of player do you think D'Angelo Russell, what kind of market's going to be there for him in the offseason?
I think D'Angelo Russell is, and he's got an opportunity to put up numbers here with the Brooklyn Nets. I think what the market told him last year is that doesn't matter. The market has decided what D'Lo is. Most teams don't need a point guard right now. And I could see him in more of like a 6-man type role here coming out, which would mean 6-man type money moving forward. Look, D'Angelo Russell had a player option last summer. If there was a long-term deal out there, he would not have picked up his player option. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I do think we're probably looking at maybe a little bit north of mid-level exception money for D'Angelo Russell and more of a 6-man role on a team after this. Now, that said, again, he's going to get all the shots that he wants in Brooklyn. He's going to have a chance to put up big numbers. If he winds up somehow putting up, 22-8 or something like that, maybe that changes it. But 18-6 clearly wasn't enough to move the market for him. So unless something drastic happens in Brooklyn, I think that we're going to see D'Angelo Russell on something of a bargain of a contract and maybe in a 6th-man role on a team, depending on how, of course, everything all plays out from here on out.
Yeah, I think this trade also said a lot about kind of the identity the Lakers are trying to form. And by the way, I have no problem with it. I spent a lot of time doing some of my post-game stuff or talking on this morning show. I feel like when JJ Redick became the coach, Lakers were trying to figure out, okay, what exactly is their identity? Mm-hmm. And early on, one of my concerns were, so we're just going to try to score 122 to 130 points a game. Like, I don't know if I like that strategy, but you're also trying to play with the personnel that you have and trying to figure out, okay, what is their greatest strength to winning? We've seen the Lakers over these last 8 games, they're 6-2. And Trev, I'm okay with, even if the game is a little bit more boring, I do feel like the Lakers have created somewhat of an identity, and they're basically saying, listen, if we're going to win games, we're going to try to do it on the defensive side. And hopefully guys can hit their threes, and hopefully, players are in some type of a groove offensively, and Anthony Davis can drop you 35 and everything else. But we're going to hang our head on getting stops. Last night or yesterday, it was in the morning that the trade went down. I thought it further positioned the Lakers of, we're here to get stops. Now, granted, they got, Dorian Finney-Smith's. I did not know this coming into yesterday that he's shooting 43% from the three-point line. But I'm just curious to get your thoughts. D'Lo goes out. He's obviously known defensively as not being a player that plays defense. He's not the only one. I mean, listen, it's not like Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect or Gary Payton and, name whatever other guard that you want to think of in that regard. Hi, Stu. That's Stu, right?
Yeah, Stu the studio cat checking in.
Stu, welcome.
saying good morning.
Yeah, no, Stu's, it's more about the defensive presence. I got into the defensive presence, and then Stu's like, I want to talk about this. What do you make of the philosophy that the Lakers are leaning more and more on becoming a defensive, gritty? Dorian Finney-Smith's definitely going to bring some of that, but it's a drastic difference between the two players of what D'Lo brought and what Dorian Finney-Smith is going to bring.
Yeah, it really is a very drastic difference, like you said, between the two guys. I think that what's interesting to me, Alan, you talk about going defense, and is that less exciting? I think NBA fans right now are saying, no, it's not less exciting. I mean, it's an extreme example, but look at the All-Star game, all scoring, no defense, and people hate it. It's not fun. I would rather watch a team that's going to make great defensive rotations, that's going to make hustle plays, and they're going to put up 105 points than a team that's going to do none of that and put up 120. So I actually think the Lakers are more exciting when they dig in defensively. And I see Max Christie make an insane closeout and get a hand up right in the face of Malik Monk. And maybe he hits the shot and you just tip your cap. But I like seeing them flying all over the floor on the defensive side of the ball and making life hell for their opponents. I think that is fun. But here's what really strikes me, Alan, is when we talk about the team forging their identity, I've felt like all along the Lakers have needed to, whether or not they have been consciously trying to do this, have needed to go back to the build style that they had in 2020, back when the whole team was about we're defensive, we're athletic, we're going to beat you up. And we're going to be the bigger, stronger, faster team, and we're going to be a pain in the ass to score on, and that's going to be kind of our identity. I felt like they needed to get back to that 3-and-D athletes around LeBron and AD. It's the winning combination. And what strikes me, Alan,
and big men, right?
Right,
having the size, behind AD,
exactly. Having that physicality, which I think is perhaps the next step for the Lakers on the trade market. But what strikes me is that Dorian Finney-Smith would have been a perfect fit on that 2020 team, right? That's the style of player that he is. And that's what I like about this. I think this is a step in that direction. It's also a step towards fixing a problem with the team. And a problem with the team was that they had all one-way players, all guys who could play offense or defense, not both. Dorian Finney-Smith plays both. So he checks a number of boxes for me, and I think he does fit more towards the new mindset of the team, which is the old mindset of the team that they probably should have never gone away from.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think for me, I'm so excited about the move, and I think what you just said, and you and I are fans of the game, and I don't listen. I'm probably watching NBA whether they're jacking 63s in a game or whether they're taking 25 of them, but there is a beauty in the game when there is a team out there that can get stops. It's why I'll never take the Kings serious. It's like, if you're depending on dropping 132 every night, you're going to lose. Like, that's not a winning recipe. With that in mind, I do think feel like the Lakers kind of further put their foot down saying, this is our identity. This is how we're going to play. Now, one of the things that you just mentioned, and it's funny, as I look at Rob Pelinka, I was literally, Trevor, I was saying this on the show on Friday. I was saying, let's not judge Rob Pelinka until we get to the end of this trade deadline. Because I could make the argument for you, and his roster construction, obviously, with other folks in the front office in 2020, helped them win an NBA championship. I could even make the argument, and I'm sure you get a lot of this as well, why did they change up that championship team? They're not wrong. But we never got to see what Marc Gasol, Montrezl Harrell, and Dennis Schroeder would have been because Anthony Davis got injured in the playoffs against the Phoenix Suns. The season was over anyways. Maybe he got too cute. The Russell Westbrook trade. Okay, if you think that was just on Rob Pelinka and that was exclusively his decision, I'm sorry. You don't know the power of LeBron James and other people that are involved. With that being said, I thought this trade deadline was going to tell a lot about Pelinka. He didn't go out there and make moves when everyone was saying, make a freaking move. He didn't do it in the offseason as well. And here he did his first move that he makes. I think most people are saying, wow, that was a really good move. You got a two-way player, like you mentioned, Trev. You got a player that can shoot 40+% from the three-point line. And you still kept a lot of your assets. Before I get into what the Lakers do next, When I say Rob Pelinka and his tenure with the Lakers, can you give me just a little bit of what comes to your mind immediately when I mention Pelinka and what he's done with the Lakers so far?
I mean, personally, I think it's been underwhelming what he's done with the Lakers overall. Now, he won a championship, obviously, but that was with, and I give him a lot of credit for executing it the way that he did, but that was with a backup plan. The initial plan was Kawhi Leonard. That fell through. They weren't able to get that done. And instead, you wind up getting Danny Green and all the pieces that really fit so well in 2020. And so the fallback plan worked, but then there was that failure to recognize that you had perhaps inadvertently maybe stumbled into the next iteration of roster building in the NBA, having all these big lanky wings and 3-and-D alongside your stars. And then they blew that up. And then just kind of being stuck over the last couple of years with the team screaming for a trade and not being able to get that done. This trade that he made is, I think, a good one, particularly that he got Dorian Finney-Smith without having to give up a first-round pick, which I think is critical. He did not have to give up a first-round pick to get him. I know there was a lot of expectation that it was going to cost a first-round pick, and so you give him credit here. I think this definitely helps Rob's perception among Lakers fans. But in general, over the totality of things, you've got some good moves that were admittedly made as a backup plan. You've got one of the worst trades in NBA history in the Russell Westbrook trade, in that you unraveled a championship level team. And then you've got some moves here and there that have helped. I mean, the D'Angelo Russell trade involving Russell Westbrook, that definitely worked out. They got to the Western Conference Finals that year. But still, this is the Lakers. And the downside is that there have been a number of mistakes made along the way, both in terms of the big time deals that have been made, as well as the decisions being made in the margins. So overall, even with the championship, I think it's still a little underwhelming because the lows have been so low with Rob Pelinka and the Lakers front office and their decision making. So they can fix that, but a long way to go. I think this is a step. This move is a step in that direction, but still a long way to go.
Okay, with that being said, it's a perfect setup. So I think you and I both agree. I mean, hell, one of the first things we're texting yesterday, and I spent some time either privately talking to people or just doing my show. It's like, okay, hey, this is one step. This is not all of a sudden, hey, watch out for the Lakers. They're going to go through the West. Mm-hmm. What does Pelinka have to do between now and February 6th where you would sit back and say, okay, he's done his part. Now it's up to the players and it's up to the coach to try to get them as far as they can in the West. Tell me, and if you want to name a specific player, you can, but what would make you feel, all right, they can hang with the Thunder, they can hang with whether it's Memphis, Houston, Dallas, Denver, I'm just looking at the teams in front of them or around them. What would make you feel that they're in a great spot to do so between now and February 6th?
So I think that there are still moves that need to be made. I think what this does is this sets the Lakers up for a real all-in push to go try to win right now. And that would probably mean parting with future first-round draft capital, the players on the team we can look at and everything and see who would be the likeliest trade candidates. But I've been saying they need three things. This roster needed, a lot of people are saying get two players. I think they need three. I think you needed a athletic defensive point of attack guard. I think you need a 3-and-D wing, and I think you need a bruising big. So you've checked one of those boxes, and you've got your 3-and-D style wing now in Dorian Finney-Smith. He's probably more 4 than 3 at this point. In fact, he's played more 4 and 5 over the last couple of years than 3 by far. So something to keep in mind with him. He's more of a power forward, but still, I think you check a box there with Dorian Finney-Smith. You still could use a defense-first guard, and maybe Max Christie is becoming that. Maybe that's the role that he's simply going to fill. But I still think you could use one more athletic defensive guard. I don't think that Shake Milton is that. I think he can be a quality NBA player off your bench, but you need a defensive dynamo that you can put at the guard position, and then you need that bruising big, that archetype of center that you simply don't have right now, even if everybody's healthy. You've got your more offensive-minded three-point shooting guy in Christian Wood. You've got your springy but undersized guy in Jackson Hayes. They need a bruiser in the paint as well. There's plenty of options to look at, but again, the challenge now is you don't have D'Angelo Russell's expiring contract, which means you have to find ways to make it work. elsewhere. And I do think that somebody else that can handle the ball and initiate the offense out of that point of attack guard could be pretty important as well. So there's still a lot on the shopping list here for Rob Pelinka, and we'll see if he can get those moves done and what he has to give up in order to make it happen.
I got to be honest. I feel like, how do I put this? I feel like it's going to happen. I feel like there's another move to come. I feel like I know sometimes we could look at, hey, there's a lot of pressure and you know what, teams are going to try and take advantage of the Lakers and this and that. I think the fact that they didn't have to give up a first rounder in the deal for Dorian Finney-Smith, there were rumors out there that Memphis was willing to give up, I think it was a protected first rounder.
Yeah.
And Lakers kind of, swooped in and made the deal happen. I think there's enough assets there. I think there's enough pressure to understand. Is Bron 40 today? I think he's 40 today.
He is 40 today. Yep. Happy birthday, LeBron.
There you go. I think because of, some of the circumstances and the fact, just because here's the thing, if you're not all in right now, then do you really need to make the trade for Dorian Finney-Smith? If you're not all in right now, does it make sense to kind of the way they're positioning themselves? I really believe, and I thought this before they traded Dorian Finney, it was for Dorian Finney. It was impossible that they weren't going to do nothing. But I do feel like, especially getting it done this early, how big of an advantage do you think that is, that we're not even at January 1st? Okay, we could check that one off the list. And now he's got a few weeks to work with to try to get another deal. And hopefully they don't wait till the last second here, because it would be nice for them to just make whatever move they make so they can have some of that continuity. But I feel like the momentum is in their favor. Yes. Maybe nothing happens, but I do feel like the momentum is in their favor.
Yeah, and here's what they've done. And I know I'd see that somebody in the chat saying I'm always negative. I'm not being negative here. I'm just saying this is what the Lakers need to do in order
you got to stop being negative, bro. I mean, this is.
I know I'm also negative. No, this
Jesus.
is. I think this was a good trade for the Lakers. This is a trade that should get people excited. This is not the put you over the top trade, but this puts you on the path to getting over the top. They are closer to contending now than they were yesterday. I don't think this is this gets you there move, but this puts you on the path to get there. And so what's exciting about this is now this is your Rui Hachimura trade from a few years ago. This is where you go, okay, and ironically it was also for 3 seconds, but this is, hey, we found something
early in the trade deadline.
Yeah. Exactly. So now you've got time to look and see, hey, is Jared Vanderbilt more than a mythical figure at this point? Is he actually going to come back and play basketball and make a decision on that? I like that they went and got Dorian Finney-Smith regardless of what the Jared Vanderbilt situation is. But now you get a sense, Christian Wood, can he come back and be something? You've got a little bit of time now to catch your breath before the February 6th trade deadline. I think the one commonality we've seen from all the early moves have been that they've included expiring salary. I think you're going to have to be a little bit patient to find the moves that are going to incorporate non-expiring contracts, which is what the Lakers have to offer now. That might be a little closer to the trade deadline. But in the meantime, you've made a move. You've improved your team's defense. This is a J.J. Redick guy. This is very much a J.J. Redick move to get Dorian Finney-Smith. So I'm excited to see what he does with them. And then as the next couple of weeks unfold, you could start to figure out what the next move is and if there's an opportunity to really go all in and put you over the top. I think this puts you on the path to do that. I think it might take some time as they kind of see how this roster now fits together and then go from there. But Alan, yeah, I think there's at least one more move coming here for the Lakers involving a first-round pick. I think that is very much in the cards, and there's going to be an opportunity here to find something that will put the Lakers over the top.
Well, let me take Pelinka's words from a year ago, or not even a year ago. It was last trade deadline. It might have been last trade deadline, or we're heading into the summer. What did he say? He's like, hey, listen, I'm going to have 3 first-round picks to work with in this. I mean, clearly the guy was shopping his picks before, any move was available or anything like that. So I do think there's a great chance. Obviously, they use one of those picks for Dalton Connect. I do think there's a great chance that another trade comes. Let me go back to what you just said, because I think when you were reading some of the comments there, and I want to ask, I think for Laker fans, this is important. What's the goal? Because if somebody says, oh, Trev, you're being negative about this, what's the goal? Do people look at this? Do people look at this Lakers roster right now and say, hey, the West is running through the Los Angeles Lakers? I don't think they do. Okay. Even with Dorian Finney-Smith, even if you bring back guys like Jared Vanderbilt. Now I think Lakers can be a really tough out in the playoffs, but I don't think people are saying the West runs through the Lakers. Nobody's saying that the way everyone's looking at the Boston Celtics and say, I don't care what the Cavs record is. I don't care what the Knicks look like. I don't care. The Eastern Conference and the NBA right now runs through the Celtics. The reason why I set that up, Trev, is because if the goal is to win an NBA championship, you got to do more, period. And it's not a matter of being negative or positive or any of that stuff. It's being realistic. It's being real. Yep. And if the goal of the Lakers, if you're a different franchise or a different team, Houston doesn't have any pressure to go win an NBA championship. They're good. This is perfect. They're back in playoff contention. They'll probably be a top 4, top 5 seed in the Western Conference. And whatever they do in the playoffs will be a step towards the right direction. Memphis, I don't think they're, they don't have to win a chip, this, that, whatever the case is. Lakers, your window is it's closing. Every single day it's closing more and more because LeBron is 40 years old. Because if they do give up first rounders, then they're clearly all in right now. So I just look at it this way. If the goal is to win an NBA championship, then they need to go do more. And it's not about, having a negative perspective. It's saying, well, they do have 17 NBA championships. There is an expectation, realistic or unrealistic, every year to win. And they're in the conversation in the West, but 100% not everything's running through the Lakers right now. They might be a move or two away from that potentially happening.
Yeah, this is a step along that path. This is a move, I think, to be celebrated as I think a strong move for the Lakers, but this is not the final move. This is not checkmate. The Lakers are all set and they're good to go. This is a step in that direction, though. So it's certainly an exciting time. And again, I think what's really exciting is it probably tells us that there is more coming, that you're willing. Look, second round draft capital is not nothing. You're not giving that up for nothing. I mean, second round draft. Look, Max Christie was a second round pick. Second round picks often do matter. I mean, if you hit on a second round pick in today's NBA, it's huge. So it's not like the Lakers traded nothing. You have the Nets prefer 3 second rounders from the Lakers versus a very likely to convey first round pick from the Grizzlies. It would have been late, but the Nets preferred the 3 seconds from the Lakers in addition to pure expiring contracts. So I think this is an exciting time for the Lakers because Alan, it got to a point where when we mentioned trades, people were just exasperated. There was no more patience for it because it had been 2 years since the Lakers had made a trade with a player. It was, we're going to sit out the trade deadline. We're not going to make a move over the summer. We're not going to do X, Y, and Z. And people started to lose faith that the Lakers could execute a trade, that they were actually going to get it done. And so now we see, okay, here we go. The wallet is open again. They're going to make moves. They've made one. I think what's exciting is there should be more to come here.
Okay, 2 more quick ones here, and then we're going to let you go, and I appreciate you hanging out, Trev. Lakers, Cavs tomorrow. I guess a couple questions here. Is this number one, it seems like we're going to get a chance to see Dorian Finney-Smith, Shake Milton. Looks like we're going to potentially get a chance to see those 2 players tomorrow. But isn't that interesting that they make the trade, and then here comes the Cavs, who got, 4 or 5 losses on the entire season. They are them and the Oklahoma City Thunder, top 2 records in the NBA. What do you expect? I mean, I guess the question would be, it's going to take time for them to integrate everybody. But I also love the idea of, here's the Cavs, a team that blew you out early in the season. You get another crack at them. They're playing great basketball. What do you expect tomorrow when your first matchup is against a really, really good Cavs team?
Yeah, I do think that we'll see Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton tomorrow. They flew in last night. The Lakers on social promoted their plane landing in LA. There's a practice today, so I would assume they'll take part in that practice and then play tomorrow against the Cavs. I think the nice thing about particularly Dorian Finney-Smith is his play style is very plug and play. It shouldn't take a lot to adjust to playing with Dorian Finney-Smith, but there will still be an adjustment, getting used to the defensive sets, particularly. And that's going to be the challenge, right? If defensively, Dorian Finney-Smith is off just on, hey, this is how we read this play. This is what we're going to do here. Just the timing and things like that. The Cavs are a team that can certainly take advantage of that. But this will be a great test for the Lakers, particularly because you probably need Dorian Finney-Smith, given how big the Cavs go and how good they are at the 5 and at the 4. And so I think we could even see some matchups with Evan Mobley and Dorian Finney-Smith. He's undersized to defend Evan Mobley, but I still think we'll wind up seeing that. And this will be a great test for a Lakers team that's played well defensively. Can they do it against a team that generates a lot of threes, hits a bunch of them, high percentage team, very good, high quality team here in the Cavs. But the Lakers have found a way to beat more quality teams over the last few weeks. So I love this test for the Lakers. I'm sure the Lakers will be the underdog going into the matchup, but this will be a great chance for them to really prove that their defense is for real and that it's going to be here to stay.
Yeah, the good thing too, I think, coming into that game is they are playing much better basketball. They're clearly, as you and I have talked about, kind of an identity that we can both, through the little bit of the fog, it's like, no, I kind of see what the Lakers are building, what they are, that they are going to depend defensively, and 6-2 in their last 8 games. So I think tomorrow should be a great test and a great matchup. Final one I got for you. I'm sure you've got this question mark a lot about if Dorian Finney-Smith will start for the Lakers. Let me kind of flip this one. Instead of asking who starts, big game, let's say tomorrow, 3 minutes left in the game in the fourth quarter. You know, they always say it doesn't matter who starts. Pay more attention to who closes out the game. Who do you think is closing? Who's the closing 5 for the Lakers in a big game? I think that to me is more important than who's starting.
You know, I think the closing 5 in a big game for right now will still include Rui Hachimura, because that's really the question. It's Rui or Dorian Finney-Smith. I think it'll be Rui for right now because of what I mentioned before, the chemistry. You've got to have all 5 guys on a chain together on the defensive side of the ball, and teams will exploit that if you're not. For the time being, I think it's probably Rui, but unless your offense is really sputtering, I think the answer is going to, in short order, become Dorian Finney-Smith as the guy who closes it out. I still think Rui probably hangs on to the starting job, but Finney-Smith, when the ball is going to be mostly in LeBron's hands anyway in crunch time,
Sure.
and you're going to be running LeBron AD pick and roll, I want the guy who can do more on the defensive side of the floor out there with him. So that's going to be Dorian Finney-Smith. But for right now, if it's, you know, it's a 2-point game with a minute left tomorrow against the Cavs, I think it'll be Rui out there just for the sake of familiarity right now.
Yeah, and by the way, what a great position for JJ to be in, right? To have all these different options, and by the way, if he wants to go big and he wants more experience on there, he can also have Christie sit and still have Rui in there to close up the match. That's a lot of size for the Lakers, but however the Lakers play it out, I think the point is that JJ's got a ton of different options. Trev, we did it, man. We had a trade. The Lakers actually made a trade. Go. It's been a little bit there. I appreciate your time. Very always generous with your time. So thank you for joining the show. I know we'll see each other soon. We'll talk soon, but thank you for coming on, buddy.
Hey, thanks again for having me, Alan. I appreciate it. And let's go. We got a Lakers trade. I'm excited.
There you go. All right. Happy New Year's, brother. That's Trevor Lane there of Lakers Nation. Taking the time. Good man, that Trevor Lane. Good man, that Trevor Lane. All right, great stuff. I wanted to, it's kind of funny. Him and I, you know, we talked about it. We were supposed to connect on Friday. It didn't happen. And then how perfect did that end up? Got the trade that went down yesterday, and then we were able to connect this morning. All right, I know there's a lot of comments out there that I have literally not even took a glance at. My apologies there, but you know, when the show's going and you got a guest with you, it's a little bit more difficult. If you got thoughts, if you got comments, put them in right now, and then I could try to get to them as we move in the show. I think, listen, I think my overall message, and I did an hour plus yesterday on the show. I will say this. I will say that the Lakers, I'm going to keep this one on here because I'll get into it. I think the Lakers got 100%. The Lakers got better by bringing Dorian Finney-Smith on this team. Do they lose things with D'Angelo Russell? Sure. Do I probably undervalue D'Angelo Russell? Probably. But I do think at the end of the day, this fits more of what they need. And it was something I was emphasizing yesterday, and I'll emphasize it again. In a playoff game, I want more players like Dorian Finney-Smith than I do D'Angelo Russell. So that's how I look at it. I don't look at it just primarily from the regular season. I look at it primarily from in the postseason. Think of the type of players that you want in the postseason. And Dorian Finney-Smith, for me, is no question about it, a player that I want to see in that Lakers lineup in the playoffs. Tough game, grinded out game. You need stops. Give me a player like Dorian Finney-Smith. And I'll admit this because I do think that I do probably fall more on this side than most people. I'm probably undervaluing what D'Angelo Russell brought to the table for the Lakers. But at the end of the day, I was more than willing to take that risk and say, okay, D'Lo is gone. Let me take my chances with this player. D'Lo's having, what was he averaging? 12 points a game. He was struggling from the 3-point line. His minutes were just, kind of up and down depending on the day and the game and what JJ Redick thought. So I thought this was the right move for the Lakers, and then we roll from there. The overhype DFS is insane. Let me tell you this. Anytime the Los Angeles Lakers make a move, there's going to be overhype. If today they announced I was going to make the G League, that would be overhyped. It's the Lakers. And the thoughts and the drama and the storylines, all that stuff, everything is overhyped. And you're probably right. Maybe there's a little bit overhype on DFS, but I got no problem telling everybody that he's going to fit well for the Lakers. I don't think Laker fans are going to be looking at Dorian Finney-Smith and saying the same that they said about Gabe Vincent or the same that they've said about Rui Hachimura with some of his inconsistent play, even though the guy is playing much better now. So I think, with all that in mind, I will 100% take my chances with DFS. All right, let's see what else we got here. By the way, if you guys don't mind, as we have everybody on here hanging out, if you can take a minute or two to subscribe to the channel, would really appreciate that. Takes a lot less than a minute or two. Alex, thank you for the super. Really excited about this move. DFS gives us more lineup flexibility. I think he's going to find his way into the starting lineup. I do. And whether that means the Lakers go big or the Lakers, find another way to put him in that lineup, I think he'll find a way to get in the starting lineup. And I want to give Rui a lot of credit because he is playing better and he's hitting his threes at an unbelievable clip right now. So give him the credit. But okay, let's put it this way. Even if he doesn't start, I think at the end of games, I think he's going to be closing out games. At least that part I will say is probably going to happen. All right, let me read a couple more of your comments. Alex, thank you again for the super here. And the flexibility that you talked about is so important. I think the flexibility of, let me just kind of use as an example here. All right, you want to go big, you want to go small, you want to go more defensive minded, you want to go more offensive minded. I think the Lakers, obviously have a number of different ways of doing that. All right, let me get a couple more in here, and then let's. I got a couple other things I want to get into. DFS will be like Trevor Ariza for us. That's a good comp. It's a good comp. Actually, I really like that comp. Trevor Ariza, there are certain players when the Lakers went out and through their championship runs, there were certain players that you felt like were not talked about enough. Trevor Ariza is a really good example of that. That's a player that, you're right, wasn't talked about a ton, but had a tremendous amount of impact for the Lakers. Let's see what else we got here. See here. Dave Lopez, I've been asking for DFS in your chat like all season. I couldn't believe we got the player H one. It's funny. That was one of the players, in my opinion, that it was like, look at all the rumors of names that get thrown around with the Lakers. I mean, I feel like we've had Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, Jonas Valanciunas. There's players that are always rumored around the Lakers. The one person, or one of the few people, Dorian Finney-Smith being one of those guys, every time you heard his name, it's like, that guy would be a really, really nice fit for the Lakers. Can they get him? The hell if I know. Yeah, I don't know what the hell the Brooklyn Nets are going to do. I don't know. I'm watching Rob Pelinka over the course of the last year and a half. He hasn't been able to make a deal, and frankly, I think he's over promised and under delivered when it came to trade. So a big time move, and I think a player like you just mentioned is a perfect fit for the Lakers. Okay, the last thing I'm going to mention on the Lakers here real quick, and then I'll keep the show kind of going here. There's a couple other things I want to get into. Frankly, might not even be the right day to get into some of these other topics. The last thing I will say, at least from a Rob Pelinka perspective, and I think it was one of the reasons why I love bringing Trevor on. First off, he's got incredible knowledge on the Lakers. He's always covering the team. But I think if you think about what Trev was saying, and I'm gonna kind of go all in on this point as well. I don't think anybody's sitting back right now saying, "Hey, I think the Lakers are good. I don't think they have to make another move." I think it's clear that the Lakers need to make another move. And I actually really, really feel like they're not trading for Dorian Finney-Smith, getting D'Lo out of here, trading those 3 second-rounders, and still having all those first-round picks that they have. I don't think they're doing that unless there's another move coming. I would be shocked, and I genuinely mean this when I say it, that the Lakers don't make another move. I'd be shocked. I think it's clear there are other needs. I love what Trev was talking about when he's mentioning, go look at that team when they won in 2020. He's not the only one. You guys, obviously, a lot of the people on the chat have said this in the past as well. A lot of people spend a lot of their time and their energy basically saying what? They have said, where is the Dwight Howard? Where is the JaVale McGee? This is the model that you guys had, the blueprint that you had that was extremely helpful in winning that NBA championship. Was teams just couldn't match up to the size and the physicality of the Lakers. And there's a little bit of that right now with some of the players that they have, and hopefully Jared Vanderbilt comes back. And you do have guys like Cam Reddish and Dorian Finney-Smith, guys that are can play a little bit of bully ball, can really focus on the defensive side. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, you got good size. What they are missing is that bruiser. And I've seen a lot of people throw this in the chat in the past, but I'm going to continue to repeat this until February 6th comes by. I would be shocked if Rob Pelinka is not using a first-round pick or whatever assets that he has to say, I'm going to go make sure I check that off the list as well. Because that, to me, now becomes the most important thing that the Lakers need moving forward. You got to have talent. You got to have depth. You got to have players that complement whatever style that you're playing with. I think JJ Redick is clearly showing the type of style that he wants this team to be, the blueprint of what he wants this team to be. And maybe they just figured that out over the last 10 games, but they are clearly now a defensive team first. And then everything that happens after that, okay, great. They are a bruiser away from probably being one of the top three teams in the Western Conference, potentially. AD's got to be healthy. Braun obviously is turning 40. So what's that going to look like come playoff time? You need guys like Austin Reeves to continue to play, Max Christie to play better. I think there's a lot of things that the Lakers will need, but if they can fill in that gap of, okay, here's another a bruiser that's going to help Anthony Davis, I think that, puts them in a class of the Western Conference where we can actually look at this team and say, all right, let's go take our chances. But I don't think that's the final move, and I would be shocked if that was the final move from Rob Pelinka. I don't believe it's going to be, and they still got some work to do, and that's obviously on Pelinka to go make it happen. All right, let's see what else we got here. All in or all out? Can I say this, and I've said this a couple different times? At the end of the day, they're just, you can't, if you guys are poker players, poker is one of the I love playing poker. I play a couple times a year, whatever the case is. You can't sort of be all in. You're either all in or you're not. You're either playing this hand and you're trying to show your strength to whoever else is in there, or you're basically saying, yeah, this isn't it. And I pull my cards back. I throw my cards in and I pull my chips back. And I think for the Lakers, they're slowly starting to go all in. And I think part of that had to do with yesterday's trade, and I think more of it will have to do with, obviously, depending on what they do the rest of the way. Okay, let's see if there's anything else here, and then I'm going to move on a little bit and get to a couple different things. get 2 centers. To be honest with you, I think all they need is just go get whether that whether that player is Jonas Valanciunas or Walker Kessler or whoever it is that they decide to go get. I do think go get that one big, and you've kind of solidified your roster. I'm not going to disagree with Trev too. I get his point about another ball handler or another player that's more defensive minded from a guard perspective. Hey everybody, sorry I'm late, Slee. There was traffic. It's okay. I'm just saying, next time, do better. Do better. You missed all of Trevor Lane, all of it. Okay, let's continue to move on here. Obviously, we're coming back from a great weekend and a lot of sports going on over the weekend. The big news, of course, was Lakers basketball and everything else that happened. But I'm going to basically start my weekend recap a little bit early here. And we'll start hitting on a couple other sports, and then we're going to call it a day, and we'll go from there. I still plan, at least for now, on doing a show. I believe tomorrow morning I'm going to do a show. I still have not figured out yet post-game show tomorrow. I don't think I want to do a post-game on New Year's Eve, but we'll figure that out, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. But let's kind of jump around a little bit. I'm gonna walk into the NFL for a quick second. I got a couple quick things on baseball, and then we'll do our NBA, our weekend recap, and then we're going to call it a day. So I appreciate everybody hanging out. Thank you for being here. Like I mentioned before, if you can subscribe to the channel, I'd appreciate that. It's kind of funny, at this stage, the NFL, I was talking about it during the week, and it was kind of crazy that the NFL, had 5 days of NFL football over the course of the last week. Rams clinched the NFC West. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. So they're going to host the playoff game. They beat the Arizona Cardinals, and actually a really good game on Saturday. Very low-scoring game, but they won. And however you win, you win. Rams started the season out 1-3. I was reading this last night, and I had a good friend of mine that was texting me basically saying, hey, here's how the Rams, and so you guys know, I don't have a dog in the fight. So for me, I'm just kind of watching these games and trying to enjoy the NFL. But I want to give credit where credit's due. Rams started the season out 1-3. Here they are again. Last year they started out the season. What were they? 3-6. They're going to be back in the playoffs again. They won the division title. This is kind of funny. And I'm going to confuse everybody as I read this. Via the NFL strength of victory tie-breaking metric, this is how they ended up winning the division. The Bengals' victory over the Denver Broncos on Saturday, plus the Buffalo Bills' victory over the New York Jets, the Minnesota Vikings' victory over the Green Bay Packers, and the Washington Commanders' victory over the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday gave the Rams the tiebreaker over the Seattle Seahawks. So their final game of the season, which is Rams-Seahawks coming up on Sunday, 1:25, that game is going to be at SoFi Stadium, does not mean anything anymore. They're in. So the Rams found a way to make the playoffs. This is the 4th time they've won the division in the 8 years that Sean McVay has been there, with a very good San Francisco 49ers squad, obviously, the Pete Carroll Seattle Seahawks days. So he's jumped into a division, has been fantastic. But I'm going to give them credit because they always, when the dust settles, actually, I'm sorry, they were 1-4 to start the season, and they won 9 of their last 11 games. But I'm going to give them credit because when the dust settles, there's a few franchises out there in every sport. In the NFL, you look at teams like the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers. There are always teams that just kind of, when the dust settles, it's like, all right, they're in the mix. And the Rams have become that team since they moved to LA. So give them a lot of credit. Give Sean McVay, I think, all the credit in the world. I think it all comes down to who your coach is, at least for them. He's the reason why they're having the success that they're having. But when the dust settles, they're going to host a playoff game. Give them a ton of credit. And like I said, Rams make it happen. The other team, obviously the Chargers, they demolished the Patriots on Saturday. And Jim Harbaugh, in his first season as the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, still hurts to say that, by the way, he's going to the playoffs. And what they win, 40-7 against the Patriots. At the end of the day, they got the right coach, and instantly you get the right coach, and they're in the playoffs. So that dude is unlocking something for the Chargers that they didn't have, obviously, over the last couple of years. There's a belief that they can win games. I've heard people say, well, they haven't played anybody. I don't know what you want me to tell you. If you're in the playoffs and you're 10-6 and you've put yourself in a position to, potentially play a playoff game, probably against the Texans or whoever they end up playing, you're in the conversation, and they did it in 1 year under Jim Harbaugh. So, obviously the Chargers and the Rams both going to be in the playoffs. Really good accomplishment for both of those franchises, and how they got there, it's completely different. Sean McVay's been with the Rams. They started off poorly. Harbaugh comes to the Chargers and instantly changes that team and changes kind of the mantra of that team. So impressive from both of those squads. Okay, another thing happened. This was, I think, on Friday that this went down. The Dodgers. The Dodgers, man, I cannot tell you how big I think this is for the Dodgers. And this one is, as somebody that, is a San Diego Padres fan, I think it's so big that they signed Teoscar Hernandez. They reached an agreement, 3 years, $66 million deal. I think the way it was announced is Teoscar posted, "I'm back," on his Instagram story. And it's just, it's, I don't think this is going to be one that goes under the radar. I think a lot of Dodger fans out there and baseball people realize just how big Teoscar Hernandez was to the Dodgers. But at the same time, I thought, okay, they went out and got Blake Snell in the offseason. They re-signed Blake Trinan, who obviously was a big player for them. You thought once they signed Michael Conforto that maybe then Teoscar Hernandez is not coming back. That's kind of their backup plan. And I mentioned this a couple different times. I thought in the Juan Soto sweepstakes, once he went for 765 or whatever that number was, I thought teams like the Yankees or teams like the Boston Red Sox or the Toronto Blue Jays, even the New York Mets were making an offer towards Teoscar. I thought somebody was going to overpay for Teoscar Hernandez. Dodgers, give them a lot of credit. They understand how valuable of a player he was to the Dodgers team, the clubhouse, the organization. And I thought they were very fair with a 3-year, $66 million deal. So Teoscar's coming back to the Dodgers. Again, if you're a baseball person, I think you understand how important of a player he was to the Dodgers. And the Dodgers bring him back. That's a big-time move. Big-time move for the Dodgers to continue to improve their roster, even though they had the best roster in baseball. They got a number of players that are going to be coming back from injury, and they improved their roster because what they went out there and did in free agency, and now they're bringing back Teoscar Hernandez. What a kind of an era right now for the LA Dodgers. Everybody's chasing them, and I don't even think it's close. I saw some deals that went down, and, the NL West, everybody's trying to compete. Corbin Burns signed a 6-year, $210 million deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks. San Francisco is trying to be aggressive as best as they can. The Padres are trying to stay in the thick of it in the NL West, but everybody in Major League Baseball is chasing the Dodgers, and Teoscar Hernandez is a huge, huge signing for the Dodgers. I don't think that one goes lightly. One tweet that I didn't really completely understand, I'll get into some of your comments here in just a second, by the way. One tweet I didn't really understand, when it had gone down, let's see what we got here. Yep, a lot of people are talking about the Teo signing. One, Jeff Passan, who I want to say Jeff Passan was initially the person that put out the tweet, or I'm sorry, reported the news that Teoscar was signing with the Dodgers. Jeff Passan said the LA Dodgers are a machine. Not only do they print cash, their willingness to spend it in pursuit of winning is unmatched. They put their money where their mouth is. Others could benefit greatly from the same approach. They choose not to. It's kind of funny. When I saw that tweet, I don't really know if I understood what he was talking about, because I don't think he needs to include other teams here. I think all he's got to do is just talk about the Dodgers. The Dodgers are printing cash. Their deal with Spectrum Sports is billions of dollars. They're packing that place 50,000 plus every single night at Dodger Stadium. They are printing money. The Shohei deal looks like a complete bargain at this pace, especially with what Juan Soto signed for. they have the ability, because it is Major League Baseball. There is no salary cap in baseball, so they could spend as much as they want. Let's see what else that works. The deferrals that they've been using to their advantage has been kind of a genius approach to it. There are deferrals in Teoscar Hernandez contract, so they can continue spending and then kind of kick the can down the road to spend all that other, to complete those contracts down the road. The part I didn't understand with Jeff Passan, I think he's completely right on how the Dodgers are doing business and they're playing within the rules and taking complete advantage of it. But he says others could benefit greatly from the same approach. They choose not to. I think here's the part that I don't understand with Jeff Passan's tweet. Not everybody is the Dodgers. Not everybody is in the second market, the second biggest market in the country. Not everybody has the type of fan base that they do, or the 19 million people in the county. Not everybody has the TV contract that they have. I got a little confused with what his point was there. I think what he should have done, and maybe there are teams that are obviously not spending and they're just, and I'm sure there are plenty of owners out there saying, why am I going to spend the money? I'm just going to keep making money. The Dodgers obviously aren't doing that. They're running a very, very successful business. But I think this has less to do with what other teams are doing. I think what the Dodgers are doing is where the focus should be, because the way they're running their organization, reinvesting back into the team, taking advantage of loopholes or their market or the capital that they're gaining, I think that's what should be praised and talked about. I don't know if I'd be comparing the Dodgers with, a team like Tampa or a team like Colorado or a team like, I don't know. You look at other franchises that are out there. All right, let's take a look at some of your comments here, and then we're going to call it a day. And I appreciate, like I mentioned, you guys hanging out here. All right, let's see what we got here. Not everyone has an unlimited amount of cash and no salary cap. Yeah, that's all I'm talking about there, right? Like I think that focus on how the Dodgers are the saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. The Dodgers are the player, and they're the ones making it happen. And they are playing, obviously within the rules and taking complete advantage of everything they got to take advantage of. But not everybody has the same resources as the Dodgers. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make is I don't know if that makes any sense. All right, let's read another one here. I think when Spanos sells the team, they will go back to San Diego. That training facility in LA will stay, but I think they'll be brought back to San Diego. I hope so, man. San Diego needs another pro team. And I will say this, if there's something that I'll criticize my own city in San Diego, you got to build the infrastructure, and you got to make it easier for a sports team like like the Chargers to say, yeah, this is a no-brainer. We're going to stay here. And I don't think they did that as well. So I don't think it's all, I despise Dean Spanos, and I think if he wanted to stay in San Diego, we would have. But you also got to put more pressure on your city to make it happen. And that's what, I lived in LA for 15 years. And if there's one thing I noticed in LA, it's like, geez, the power of that market. But you got owners that are worth billions that say, we don't need the city's help to build. Stan Kroenke's like, I'll pay $6 billion and build my own facility or my own, SoFi Stadium, my own football stadium. Or Steve Ballmer, who's worth over $100 billion, is like, well, I'll just pay $2+ billion to go in Inglewood and build my own stadium as well. All right, a couple more here. Lakers are going to need to relocate when their house falls down. Staples is a dump. Not that bad. Guy, by the way, it was built in 2000. It's been 25 years. 25 years isn't that bad. Let's see what else we got here. Lakers need to get rid of Pelinka. He's worried about pleasing ownership. Guy just made a good move. Give him a second. Let's see. Listen, I was mentioning this on Friday that I do feel like by the time we get to the end of the trade deadline, I think we're going to have a much better idea of how Pelinka is as a general manager. I think he is. I think he definitely started, at least from between now and the trade deadline, he made a good move to start off with, and we'll see what happens from there. All right, let's see. Last one here. Let's see this. As a Padres fan, the Dodgers have done record-breaking moves. They pay their players. Padres are at a stalemate. You can tell they haven't signed a single player this offseason. Yeah, the problem with the Padres is they have a lot of bad contracts. That's the problem with the Padres. Xander Bogaerts, go look at the details of that deal. It's one of the worst deals you're going to see. Machado, who's a baller, Dodger fans don't have to like him. He's a baller. He's 30 home runs and 100 RBIs a year. As that contract goes on, he's got 9 years left on his contract. Their issue is, I got a lot of bad contracts. So even if the city goes out to support him, which they do, San Diego does, listen, you can't play the same game. The way the Dodgers do business, you just can't do business that way. If you're going to find a way to compete against the Dodgers, I think last year is a good example. Last year was a great example. The Padres found a way to compete against the Dodgers without playing their game. They traded for Luis Ariz. They traded for Dylan Cease. They found ways to improve that roster. You got to play your own game. So if you're trying to play the Dodgers game, you're never going to win that game. They're going to do it their way. And they're going to, obviously do it the best they can to their advantage, and they're doing it. So I got no problem giving credit where credit's due. All right, my people, thank you very much for being here. By the way, just a quick heads up. Tonight, Spectrum Sportsnet, which is the Laker channel, that's where you can watch all the Laker games and everything else. I will be on there tonight talking Lakers basketball. So I should be on there with Chris McGee, with Mike Bresnahan. I want to say the show is live at 7 o'clock tonight, Pacific time. So if you guys want some more Laker conversation and you want to see me, obviously on TV, I will be promoting the channel. So I'm looking forward to that. Very appreciative to still be on. It's kind of interesting. It was kind of interesting when I left 710 ESPN, kind of figuring out the pieces. Like, all right, well, what happens from here? Well, clearly I'm on YouTube. The channel's doing phenomenal. I'm excited of where this channel is going. But then there was, hey, do I still got access to Laker games? Still have it. Am I still going to be on Spectrum Sportsnet? I still am. So that part to me is phenomenal, and I'm very appreciative of that. So tonight, Spectrum Sportsnet. Tomorrow morning, I'm back on at 8 a.m. That's the plan. So we'll continue talking Lakers basketball and get you all ready for tomorrow's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Thank you for being on, everybody. Please subscribe to the channel. Please turn on that notification bell so you know. Like yesterday was a perfect example. I didn't know I was going to go on, and I went on because a trade went down. Of course, I'm doing post-game shows, and I'm doing this show at 8 a.m., but there's still a lot of times that I put up other content. So thank you for being here. Subscribe to the channel. You guys have a great rest of your morning. Thank you to Trevor Lane of Lakers Nation. Have a great rest of your day. Spectrum Sportsnet tonight. Thanks, everybody.